Okay, so getting straight into this then. The new Flip 4 does not have Samsung's DeX function, and also you cannot do screen mirroring from it directly from the USB port to some kind of a USB to HDMI interface, so you can go and plug it into a TV or a monitor. So there you go. That is the message of this video. If that is all you've needed to know, then fair enough. This video has been very short for you. However, what I'm going to do now is just talk a little bit. And before I do this talk, and just two things to be clear about here, no fancy cutaways. It's just me monologuing. And the other thing as well, in the description to this video, there will be some links to videos that I have done in the past to do with the use of DeX, and also like, you know, how to use DeX and how to set it up and stuff like that. So if you want to know a bit more about it, check that out. Also, there is a really cool YouTube channel. The name doesn't come to mind right now. I will dig that out and put that in the description as well. But there's some guy who does these really cool videos about DeX. In fact, I think his whole channel is based around DeX. So you need to check that out as well to see exactly what this functionality is. However, what I'm going to do now is just briefly explain what it is and why it is such a big deal for it to not be on the Flip 4. So basically what DeX is, it's like a different kind of user interface that you can have the option of using on particular Samsung, like, you know, dare I say, flagship devices, of which this is a flagship device, but it doesn't have it on it. Anyway, so a lot of these devices have got things called DeX, right? Now what DeX is, it's a function which, say for instance, on one of the tabs, on the tab itself, it would just appear to maybe give you a slightly different interface, dare I say a slightly better one from the usual Android interface, and something that looks a bit more like a desktop interface. So effectively on a tab, when you put a tab into DeX mode on its own, you're basically getting something that looks more like a laptop, as it were, especially if you've got a keyboard attached to it. However, where DeX comes well into its own is when you connect either a tab or one of the Galaxy phones or anything by Samsung that supports DeX. When you plug that into, say, a computer monitor or a TV, at that point, you have effectively turned your Samsung device into a desktop computer, and it is absolutely fabulous. Now, if there's anyone out there who's a bit like me, who kind of goes between, like, you know, Android and iOS and iPad OS and stuff like that, or more to the point between Samsung and Apple, then if you're aware of this new function coming up with iPad OS 16, which is called Stage Manager, DeX is like Stage Manager, or more to the point, Stage Manager is like DeX. However, DeX is like 10 times better. Now, this is not one of those Apple versus Samsung things here. I use both of them all the time, and I've had like tons of their things, like different, like, you know, Galaxy series stuff and different iPads and all that kind of thing. I'm looking at this as a neutral, and I can definitely tell you that whatever it is that Apple are trying to do with their like Stage Manager function, they're basically trying to copy whatever it was that Samsung have been doing with DeX, although they're not doing a good job at it as far as I'm concerned, and DeX is still the better functionality if you want to start plugging your portable devices into an external TV or monitor and stuff like that. So anyway, let me just get back to the point of the DeX thing now. So effectively, you can turn your compatible device into like basically a mini computer and stuff. And when I say mini computer, because like some of these devices have got really good, decent, powerful processors on them, you're basically talking about a very capable desktop system. Now, that within itself is something that you will definitely miss if that's what you've been using DeX for. However, if you're somebody like me and you use DeX to turn your Samsung device basically into like an Android gaming console, which it is absolutely amazing for, you definitely will not be able to live without it. So what I tend to do is have either like me tabs or me Galaxy phones and whatnot plugged into like a computer monitor in DeX mode. I either use a direct, say, like USB-C to HDMI cable to do it, or I use a USB-C hub and put like keyboard, mouse, and, you know, like sound card interfaces on and stuff like that, headphones, microphones, all that type of stuff, external storage. It's amazing. Anyways, I do that to turn my Samsung devices into basically gaming consoles or Android gaming consoles. And I've done a ton of videos where I've shown the results of that. And once you've been doing that, and that's how you do your gaming with the controller plugged into the telly and stuff, or the monitor, it really is something that you cannot live without. Anyway, the other big disappointment here is the Flip 4 is basically $1,000 in anyone's money. So whether, like, you know, you're in Europe, like, or mainland Europe using the euro, or whether you're in, like, you know, the UK on sterling, or North America using the North American dollar, you're basically talking in the region of $1,000 to start off with. Now, when you consider that there are much cheaper devices, such as, say, well, the S22, for instance, and that's the latest flagship in the Galaxy series as far as a normal phone is concerned, and let's say the Tab S8 and stuff like that, you look at those two things and they both start off at a lower price than the Flip 4. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you got to say to yourself, hold on, what was Samsung thinking here? Now, Samsung, I've kind of like found something after a bit of digging, which basically said it was down to like heat or something like that as to why it's been taken off. But it's like, well, hold on a minute, this is a huge function that people are dead into and all the rest of it. So surely surely the onus should have been on you to have made this work, because there's going to be a ton of people who are going to like swap over from a different other like Samsung device over to like the Flip 4, and then suddenly they've got like, well, they've got no DeX anymore. So all that stuff that they've been doing, they just can't do it anymore. And I think that's a bit of a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. And basically that's where I'm at right now. I'm finding this a real tough pill to swallow. All Samsung had to do is, in the promotion of the phone, they should have just made a little slight point of saying, look, for whatever reason, we no longer support DeX on this particular handset and whatnot. They could have phrased it in a load of different ways so it didn't sound like a letdown, but they could have at least have warned people about it, because I'm very familiar with these types of things. I've used loads of Samsung stuff, and it's not like I'm a noob to it or anything like that. But even I didn't stop to think that it wouldn't be on it. So I would have loved to have known before I bought it that it wasn't there, because I probably, well, not probably, I definitely would not have bought the Flip 4 if I'd have known in advance that it didn't have DeX on it. And then that brings me now to like sum up this video. One, I'm massively disappointed, and for anybody who knows me from my other channel, I think they will understand how much I'm trying to contain my disappointment right now. But the bottom line is this: I think I'm going to have to send this back, and I don't need to like over explain the reasons why. There is a massive function that I use on Samsung devices that I don't have on this, and Samsung gave me no indication that it would not be doing it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's got to go back. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. I don't want this to turn into a full-blown rant or anything like that, but hopefully, anyway, this information that I've given you is enough for you to make your own mind up as to whether or not that function not being on the Flip 4 is something that's going to like really throw you off and all the rest of it. And if it is, then you've got to make that decision. Can you live with the Flip 4 without DeX or not? But that's your decision to make, not mine to tell you. Anyways, I'm David Harry. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care and goodbye now.